Greetings, subscribers. Welcome back, this is Six Path Weeb. Today's topic, what if Naruko had been born in the land of snow? Disclaimer. The content presented on this channel is intended solely for entertainment and discussion purposes. I do not claim ownership of any anime footage featured in this video. All rights and credits belong to their respective creators and copyright holders. Now, without further ado, let's dive in. The snowflakes dance gently across the pale blue sky, blanketing the mountains in a sparkling sheet of white. In the heart of the land of snow, nestled between two pine-covered slopes, was a small village known as Yokohama. Unlike the bustling shinobi villages of the five great nations, Yokohama was quiet, peaceful, and largely untouched by conflict. It was here, under the shimmering glow of the northern lights, that a baby girl with sunshine-colored hair and the brightest blue eyes was born. Her name was Naruko, and even from the very beginning, the villagers said she radiated warmth like a sunbeam on the coldest day. Naruko's earliest memories were filled with soft laughter, crackling fireplaces, and the smell of sweet snowberry tea. Though the wind howled outside and the snow piled high around the wooden houses of Yokohama, inside the cozy little cottage at the edge of the village, Naruko always felt safe. She was raised by an older woman named Hanai, gentle, kind, and known by the villagers as Snow Grandma. Hanai had no children of her own and had lived alone since her husband passed away many winters ago. But when she found a mysterious bundle of blankets and a baby at the edge of the forest one morning, everything changed. Naruko had been wrapped snugly in a bright orange cloth, an unusual color in the land of snow, where most people wore cool blues, grays, and whites. Hanai always believed the orange was a sign, a little flame sent to warm the frozen land. From the moment she took Naruko in, she treated her like her own granddaughter. The two were inseparable. Naruko was a curious, energetic child. She would follow the fluttering snowbirds from tree to tree, make little snow foxes out of ice crystals, and spend hours building forts with the other children. She had a wild imagination and loved pretending she was a hero from the stories Hanai told, tales of brave princesses, wise wolves, and magical warriors who defended their homes with kindness and cleverness rather than weapons. Hanai often laughed at how Naruko would stomp through the snow in her two big boots, trying to help with chores. "You're still smaller than the bucket," she'd say when Naruko tried to carry water from the hot spring. But Naruko never gave up. She had a determination that burned like a lantern in the darkest snowstorm. Though many of the villagers were wary of outsiders and change, they couldn't help but be charmed by Naruko. Her laughter was like the sound of sleigh bells, bright and infectious. And even when she accidentally knocked over a market stall chasing a snow hare, the shopkeepers only shook their heads and smiled. Still, there were whispers. Some of the elders spoke in hushed tones when they thought Naruko wasn't listening. "Strange chakra," they'd say. "Did you see her eyes glow yesterday when she fell into the ice pond? Not natural." But Hanai always reassured her, gently brushing her hair and saying, "Everyone shines differently, my snowdrop. That just means you were born to light up the shadows." Naruko grew up never knowing where she had truly come from, but she didn't dwell on it. To her, Yokohama was home. Her family was Hanai, and her friends were the giggling children who slid down snowy hills and the elders who told stories by the fire. She loved her little village and the way it sparkled under moonlight, like it had been dusted with stars. She dreamed of one day bringing joy to the whole land of snow. "Maybe I'll be a storyteller like Hanai," she'd say. "Or maybe I'll be a snow dancer, or an inventor who makes warm boots that never get soggy." Whatever the dream of the day was, Naruko believed in it with all her heart. And though she didn't know it yet, her heart held more than dreams. It held a gentle power, an ancient, slumbering warmth, that would one day wake up and change not just her life, but the entire land around her. The winters in Yokohama stretched longer than elsewhere, with twilight skies that shimmered in shades of lavender and gold. Naruko, now nearing her 10th winter, had begun to notice something that set her apart, not in a way she feared, but in quiet moments that left her wondering. Whenever she played in the snow, it melted quicker around her fingertips. When others complained of frostbite, her cheeks remained flushed and warm. One day, as she sat alone on the edge of the village's frozen lake, she reached toward a trapped snow lily beneath the ice, and without touching it, the ice cracked in a perfect circle, freeing the bloom without harm. It startled her at first, but she whispered to herself, "Maybe the snow listens to me." Hanai, ever attentive, observed without prying. Instead of questions, she offered stories. Not of far-off heroes this time, but of spirits who whispered to the land, and children born in starlight who carried gentle gifts. "Some people speak with words," Hanai said one night as they shelled frostberries. "Others speak with light, or with silence, or with warmth. You. You may speak in a language the snow understands. Naruko held onto those words, even as the village changed. A traveling merchant caravan had arrived one evening, bringing curious eyes, soft music, and tales of the shinobi world beyond the mountains. The traders spoke of chakra, of jutsu, and villages where people harnessed power not just for survival but for shaping destiny. Naruko listened in awe but kept her thoughts tucked away, like a secret seed in deep frost. The travelers stayed only for a week, yet they sparked something. Naruko began experimenting. Not with the wild, forceful movements the traders had demonstrated, but with quiet focus. She would sit beneath a pine tree, close her eyes, and breathe deeply, imagining a glow at her center. Slowly, she began to feel it, an ember, steady and patient. When she concentrated, her footprint stayed warm long after she passed. When she laughed with joy, snowflakes in the air spun playfully around her. It wasn't flashy or loud. It didn't summon storms or split mountains. But her ability, subtle, sincere, and honest, seemed to touch the world in a softer way. The frost didn't fear her, it welcomed her. One morning, after a particularly deep snowfall, the children of the village awoke to find a perfect path had been cleared from every home to the central hall. No footprints, no shovels. Just smooth, shining trails. Naruko never confessed, but Hanai smiled knowingly. As Naruko grew, so did her sense of purpose. She began helping the village in small ways, unfreezing stuck doors, warming the old bathhouse stones, coaxing light through the thickest clouds on gloomy days. The villagers, once suspicious, now greeted her with affection. "There goes our snow sun," they'd say, ruffling her windswept hair as she passed. Yet, in the quiet moments, Naruko still wondered, was there more? Her heart longed to explore beyond the snowy ridges. She often climbed the highest hill, looking out toward the horizon where white blended into blue. There, standing beneath the ever-moving auroras, she whispered her hopes into the wind. "I don't just want to belong," she murmured one night. "I want to understand why I feel like a candle in a world of frost." Unseen by her, far off in the distance, a faint glow flickered in response, a warmth stirring in the hidden corners of the snowbound world, as if something ancient had heard her call. Part 1, The Silent Frost. The morning had a strange stillness to it. Naruko stepped outside into a sky that was too white, even for the land of snow. The village of Yukahana sat frozen beneath a windless silence. No birds sang. No children laughed. The cold that day had a bite, not a fierce, angry chill like the village knew during winter storms, but a quiet, heavy one. The kind that settled into bones and refused to leave. Even the snow seemed different. Usually light and fluffy, it now glistened like glass. Beneath her boots, the ground cracked with a sound like breaking crystal. She squinted up at the sky. "Something's off," she whispered. Down the hill, villagers huddled near the central hall. Smoke should have curled from chimneys, but the hearths were failing. People wore extra layers, but it didn't help. The warmth Naruko had always felt in the heart of her village was fading. Hanai greeted her with a worried expression. It began in the night. First the snow, then the springs. Then the animals stopped appearing. And now, even our fires flicker out too soon. This isn't normal weather. Naruko looked around. Children were shivering, elders clutching warm stones that refused to stay hot. Something deep and unseen had shifted in the land. And she could feel it. Not with her eyes or ears, but somewhere just behind her ribs, a soft pull, like a whisper beneath the snow. Her warmth, once so easy and playful, now flickered in response, uncertain. She sat alone near the frozen pond and reached her hands toward the surface. Usually, a tiny warmth would pool from her fingertips, enough to leave a handprint. But now the ice resisted. Her power, once accepted, now met with silence. Something was stopping the land from breathing. Part 2, The Last Ember Tree. That night, Naruko went to Hanai's study, a room filled with ancient scrolls, pressed flowers, and stories carved on driftwood. The fire in the hearth barely held a flame. "Hanai," she said, "has anything like this ever happened before?" The old woman nodded slowly, tracing a scar on her palm as if remembering something long buried. "Only once. Long ago, when I was a child. We called it the Silent Frost. It came quietly, like now, and nearly ended our village. Back then, our people turned to the ember tree." Naruko leaned forward. "What's that?" "A sacred tree that grew deep in the silver hollow, past the Ridge of Whispers. Its roots ran so far beneath the snow, it kept warmth flowing through the land. But the path became lost with time. Or maybe we stopped believing." Naruko's heart jumped. A hidden tree? A place that breathed warmth into the cold? I'll find it. You don't even know if it still exists. I'll find it anyway. The next morning, she packed her satchel with frostberry cakes, a bottle of spring water, and her thickest coat. She carried no weapon, just a small lantern and Hanai's blessing. The villagers watched her quietly as she left. No one told her to stop. They didn't need to. She wasn't doing it for glory, only because something inside her said this is your path. Part 3, Through the Ridge of Whispers. The Ridge of Whispers wasn't on any map. It was a line of jagged cliffs where snow never quite settled. The wind there carried strange echoes, not of voices, but memories, laughter long faded, songs half remembered, sorrow stitched into the air. Naruko moved carefully, following no trail but trusting her instincts. Her warmth, dimmed in the village, seemed to grow stronger the farther she walked. It was as if something ancient recognized her footsteps and stirred. Days passed. She slept inside hollow trees, drank melted snow, and kept her lantern close. Whenever the cold crept too near, she whispered stories into the night, just like Hanai used to. By the fourth night, the wind shifted. She woke to find herself surrounded by glowing petals, tiny, floating specks of amber light that danced around her like snowflakes made of flame. They didn't burn. They shimmered softly, guiding her deeper into the forest. She followed. Part 4, The Heart of the Hollow. The silver hollow wasn't silver at all. It was warm. Deep beneath the tallest pines, where no map dared mark, Naruko found a clearing bathed in golden mist. At the center stood a tree unlike any she'd ever seen, tall and wide, with bark that pulsed like embers and leaves that glowed like lanterns in fog. The ember tree. Its roots coiled beneath her feet, warm and humming, like a heartbeat shared with the world. Naruko approached, and her body tingled. The warmth inside her responded, not wild or rushing, but steady, like reuniting with something she'd always known. She placed her hands on the trunk. The glow deepened. Memories poured into her. Not in words, but feelings. Children laughing in the snow. Grandmothers sharing tea. The quiet joy of light in winter. All the warmth Yukahana had ever known had come from this tree. But it was dimming. Its roots were clogged with frost, not ordinary cold, but something unnatural. A spiritual frost, like forgotten love or abandoned hope. Naruko took a deep breath. She didn't need jutsu. She didn't need training. She needed to believe in the one gift she'd always had. She closed her eyes. And shared her warmth. Part 5, Her Gift Awakens. It wasn't dramatic. No light burst from the sky. No explosions. No cheers. Just a slow, golden glow that spread from her fingers into the bark. Her warmth was gentle, not forced. A kindness that didn't try to dominate but to soothe. Her memories, the smell of snowberry tea, the sound of Hanai's stories, the warmth of a village hug, flowed into the roots. The frost began to melt. The glow traveled downward, then outward, slipping into the earth like a river beneath the snow. The tree responded, its leaves lifting higher, its roots breathing again. Somewhere far away, the land shuddered, and sighed. The cold cracked. The silence broke. And the warmth returned. The warmth that spread from Naruko's hands into the ember tree wasn't just her gift, it was a piece of her identity, something the land had been missing without even realizing. As the tree's roots unfroze and pulsed gently beneath her feet, a low hum echoed across the silver hollow. The forest around her stirred. Branches unclenched. Frost softened into dew. The land had accepted her presence not as an outsider taming it, but as one of its own, born of snow, but carrying the sun in her spirit. She didn't fully understand what she had done. Her thoughts weren't focused on power or mastery. There was no pride in her chest, only a quiet wonder. She had always felt like a mismatch in this frozen world, someone too bright, too warm for a place built on ice. But now, for the first time, she felt aligned. Her warmth wasn't out of place here. It was necessary. She wasn't melting the snow, she was completing it. She was a balance. Not fire, not frost. Just harmony. With the tree's blessing seemingly absorbed into her being, Naruko began the journey back to Yukahana. But something was different now. The snow beneath her boots no longer crunched in resistance, it seemed to part for her, welcoming her steps. Pine trees swayed gently even without wind, and the path that had once been wild and unmarked was now a subtle trail of glowing snowflakes, drifting in the air like a quiet celebration. When she returned to the village, everything had changed. Fires had rekindled on their own. The ice around the hot springs had cracked open, releasing familiar steam. Children played in the newly fallen snow, and even the most skeptical elders stood outside with lifted faces, soaking in the subtle warmth of an air that finally felt like home again. The entire village shimmered in soft gold, like morning sunlight reflecting off frost. It wasn't heat. It wasn't summer. It was warmth without burning, peace without silence. It was Naruko. She didn't need to explain what had happened. The villagers didn't ask. Instead, they gathered that night in the central square, under the pink glow of the auroras, and shared a quiet feast. There were no speeches. Just food, laughter, and music made from hollow snow reeds and hand drums warmed by firelight. And through it all, Naruko sat beside Hanai, glowing, not with chakra, but with something older and more important. Still, as life slowly returned to normal, Naruko couldn't ignore one truth echoing gently inside her: she was different. The ember tree had shown her memories older than any scrolls, and among them, brief flashes of something she didn't yet understand. A whirl of red-orange energy, a sealed symbol, and a voice, unfamiliar but somehow hers, crying out not in fear, but in fierce determination. And then, a name: Uzumaki. She began to wonder, in quiet moments by the lake or during early mornings before the village stirred, what lay beyond the snowy ridges, not out of restlessness, but a growing need to understand who she truly was. She loved Yukahana. She would always love it. But the ember in her heart had grown brighter since her encounter with the tree, and it no longer flickered quietly in the background. It pulsed now, eager and curious. One day, as she helped an elder mend the roof of the bathhouse, a strange traveler arrived in the village. Cloaked in blue-gray with scrolls slung across his back and sandals caked with snow, he introduced himself as Renji, a mapmaker. But Naruko sensed something else about him. His steps were too quiet, his gaze too alert. Shinobi, most likely. But not dangerous. Renji stayed for several days, sketching the valleys and eating with the villagers. And eventually, he began asking questions, not just about the weather or the terrain, but about her. Quietly, respectfully, as if he already knew she was someone worth understanding. "You said you were born here," he asked once, casually sharpening a charcoal pencil. "But no one seems to recall a birth. Just that you appeared." Naruko tilted her head. "Does that scare you?" Renji smiled. "No. But it makes me wonder what the world lost when it lost you." Those words stayed with her. The truth, as Renji eventually admitted, was that he had once visited the Hidden Leaf Village, Konoha, and heard rumors of a child born on a stormy night, only to vanish without a trace. A child tied to something vast, sealed, and mysterious. A child meant to be a weapon. Or a light. Naruko didn't understand it all. But she didn't feel threatened. She felt seen. "I'm not a weapon," she said simply, staring out over the snowy rooftops. "And I don't want to be a hero. I just want to keep things warm." "That's enough, isn't it?" Renji nodded. "More than enough. That's rare." And so the seed of a new dream began to grow. Not one of fame or power. Not of vengeance or battles. But of balance. What if she could one day walk into these hidden villages, not to fight, but to teach them what she'd learned in the land of snow? That warmth wasn't weakness. That silence didn't always need to be broken with shouting. That some of the strongest people simply warmed the spaces around them, without ever needing to take anything. Her chakra was still developing. She had no training, no jutsu, and no summons. But what she had was unique, an affinity not for destruction, but restoration. She had melted a silent frost not through force, but feeling. And the world, she suspected, might need more of that. So she began to train, not to fight, but to grow. She meditated beneath icicles. Practiced focus by catching snowflakes on her fingertips. Measured her chakra through small challenges, warming frozen roots without burning them, guiding frost to form patterns on window glass, sensing energy in stones buried deep in snow. She became a student of stillness and subtlety. Not a flame wielder. Not a snow warrior. But something different. Something in between. In time, other villages began hearing of the girl in the snow who had restored warmth without violence. A few even sent envoys, peaceful, curious ones. They arrived not with threats, but with open hands. They asked questions. They listened. And slowly, gently, Naruko began to speak, not as a leader or a shinobi, but as a storyteller. Just as Hanai had taught her. And perhaps that, too, was her gift. Not chakra. Not bloodline. But the ability to bring light to even the coldest places, simply by being who she was. Had she been born elsewhere, her life might have been different. Her gifts might have been trained into weapons. Her warmth might have been tested in endless wars. But here in the land of snow, she had learned something even rarer. That sometimes, the world doesn't need another storm. Sometimes, it needs a sunbeam. And she was exactly that. It began quietly, as most changes do. The snow around Yokohama started to shift, not in form, but in spirit. Where once the frost settled heavy and thick, now it danced more lightly through the trees. Crops that had once grown only in the southernmost valleys, like firegrass and moonbulbs, began to sprout on the edges of the snowbanks. Elders spoke of long-forgotten rhythms returning, animals migrating with unusual timing, and birds singing songs they hadn't heard since they were young. It was as if the land, once locked in old routines, was finally breathing again. Naruko, though still just a girl by most standards, had become something of a quiet legend. But not in the way stories were usually told. There were no titles attached to her name, no feats of strength or battles won. People spoke of her the way they spoke of spring's first thaw or the moment when morning mist catches light. She had simply become part of the landscape, an unexpected, gentle force that brought balance wherever she went. Despite this, Naruko remained humble, spending her days weaving cloth with the village women, collecting herbs with the children, or learning recipes from Hanai that had been passed down over generations. But inside, she could feel it, the ember tree had left something in her, not just power, but memory. A thread of connection to something ancient and layered. She sometimes woke with fragments of dreams that felt like they belonged to someone else. A woman with long red hair and a fiery laugh. A man in a flak jacket holding an infant in trembling arms. A beast, vast, orange, and burning, contained behind bars of gold. She didn't understand it all, but she carried it with her like a story still waiting to be told. One day, a letter arrived, carried by a bird with feathers of ice. It was from the northernmost reaches of the country, where a settlement named Yukino had fallen into unnatural darkness. The snow there had turned black, the skies perpetually gray. The villagers were afraid. Not of war or famine, but of something older, a winter curse they said, something creeping up from the deep earth. No one from Yokohama had ever dared travel that far north. The region was known as the Forgotten Ice, where even compasses failed, and the land whispered in voices only the wind could understand. But Naruko didn't hesitate. She left at dawn. This time, she was not alone. A few companions joined her, Mako, a boy with sharp eyes and quiet feet, Aya, a girl who could hear vibrations through ice, and Hanai's old friend Toma, a healer with herbs stitched into his cloak. Together they journeyed through mountains where the snow was too old to melt and forests where branches hung like frozen arms reaching out from another time. As they approached Yukino, they saw it. A dome of darkness stretching over the village like a frozen cloud, pulsing slowly, silently. The snow around it was not white, but gray and brittle. No animals stirred. Even the trees stood crooked, their bark cracking like old skin. Naruko stepped forward. She didn't raise her hands or summon chakra. She simply closed her eyes and listened. Not to the wind, but to the silence beneath it. Her warmth flickered gently within her, not as fire, but as breath. And in that stillness, she heard it, a sorrow, old and deep, humming from beneath the ground. The land here is grieving, she said softly. Aya frowned. Grieving what? Naruko looked at the black snow beneath her boots. Being forgotten. This curse wasn't malevolent. It wasn't a jutsu or a spell. It was despair. A piece of the world that had been left behind for so long, it had dimmed into silence. The people of Yukino had survived, yes, but they had stopped believing that anyone remembered them. And the land had mirrored their loss. So Naruko did the only thing she knew. She lit a lantern. Not a special lantern. Just a small one, with a flame made of common oil and a bit of cloth. But she placed it in the center of the darkened square and knelt beside it. Then, she told a story. She spoke of the ember tree and the frozen forest. She spoke of warmth that wasn't fire and light that didn't blind. She spoke of silence that could be softened with presence. And as she spoke, her companions joined in. Aya hummed an old song from their village. Mako laid down handfuls of unspoiled snow. Toma brewed a simple tea and handed it to the shivering villagers. Nothing spectacular happened. Except everything did. The darkness didn't shatter, it lifted. Like a heavy curtain pulled slowly aside by invisible hands. The black frost melted into clear water, and the dome dissolved into mist. The people wept. Not in fear, but in relief. Because someone had come. Because they were not forgotten. Naruko didn't claim credit. She just smiled and said, "It's okay to start again." When they returned to Yokohama, the journey had changed them. Not just Naruko and her friends, but the village itself. News of her gentle warmth had begun to spread beyond the land of snow. A scroll arrived from the hidden leaf, marked not with commands, but curiosity. They had heard whispers of a girl who stilled storms without jutsu. Who walked into sorrow and softened it. They wanted to meet her. Not as a ninja. As a person. And Naruko knew, her story was only beginning. She didn't need a title or a headband to be who she was. She had been born of snow but made of light. And the world, cold and chaotic as it was, had a quiet place for someone like her. A girl who carried the sun in her heart and left warmth wherever she walked. Weeks after the journey to Yukino, Naruko was back in Yokohama, helping prepare for the village's winter festival, a quiet celebration of light, warmth, and the first auroras of the season. Lanterns hung from pine branches, and villagers crafted delicate ice sculptures that caught the colors of the sky. It was a night of stories, songs, and togetherness. Just as the first song began, a figure appeared at the edge of the village, a tall woman wrapped in a crimson cloak embroidered with swirling patterns. Her eyes, deep and kind, reflected the flickering lantern light. She carried a simple wooden staff, topped with a small glowing orb that pulsed gently like a heartbeat. Naruko's heart skipped. There was something familiar about her. The villagers watched in quiet curiosity as the woman stepped forward. She smiled softly at Naruko and said, "I am Ayame. I come from the Hidden Leaf." Naruko blinked. The Hidden Leaf village was a place spoken of in stories, fierce warriors, great heroes, and legends that seemed distant, almost unreal to someone from the land of snow. Ayame's gaze softened as she continued. "I have come because I heard of you, the girl born of snow who carries the sun in her heart." Naruko's cheeks warmed. "I'm just a girl trying to help where I can." Ayame shook her head gently. "No. You are more than that. Your energy, your warmth, it carries the strength of your ancestors. The Uzumaki clan. A lineage known for their resilience, kindness, and powerful life force." Naruko's breath caught. She had always sensed a connection to something greater, but hearing it named aloud made her world shift gently. "Uzumaki?" Ayame nodded. "Yes. Your bloodline is rare, carried through generations. And though you were born here, in the land of snow, your spirit carries the fire of your people. That warmth inside you, the one that brought life back to the ember tree, it is a gift from your heritage." Naruko looked down, thinking about the frozen landscapes she had always called home, the silent frost she had healed, and the strange memories that sometimes drifted through her dreams. Ayame smiled, seeing the question swirling in the girl's eyes. "There is no need to choose between fire and ice, Naruko. You are both. The harmony of opposites. Your path is unique, and it is powerful." For the first time, Naruko felt whole. Ayame extended her hand, not in command but in invitation. "Would you like to visit the Hidden Leaf? To learn more about your family, your power, and your place in this world?" Naruko's heart swelled with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. But she knew the answer. "I would," she said simply. And so, under the soft glow of the auroras, two paths converged, the girl of snow and the woman of fire, beginning a new journey that would lead Naruko to discover not only where she came from but also who she could become. Because sometimes, the coldest places give birth to the brightest lights. And sometimes, the warmest hearts are found beneath the quietest snow. The journey from the land of snow to the Hidden Leaf was like stepping through layers of a dream. Mountains softened into hills, icy rivers gave way to clear streams, and the sharp chill was replaced by a gentle breeze that carried the scent of blooming flowers. Naruko felt the warmth inside her pulse stronger with each step, as if the closer she drew to her origins, the more alive she became. Upon arrival, the Hidden Leaf village, Kanahagakure, was vibrant and bustling with life. Colorful banners fluttered above wooden rooftops, and the laughter of children mixed with the clang of blacksmiths and the chatter of merchants. The village felt like a living storybook, every corner whispering secrets of ninjas and legends. Ayame led Naruko through the village toward the Ninja Academy, a large stone building buzzing with youthful energy. There, they met two new faces who would become Naruko's first guides in mastering her gifts in this new world. The first was Takumi, a slender boy with sharp amber eyes and spiky dark hair that looked as if it had been touched by lightning. He was a genjutsu specialist, a ninja skilled in illusions and mind tricks. Unlike many others who used illusions to confuse enemies, Takumi used his powers to create beautiful visions that calmed restless minds. His gentle voice explained, "Genjutsu is about understanding the mind's patterns, shaping reality without force. I think your warmth has a kind of illusion too, it changes how people feel inside." Beside him stood Midori, a cheerful girl with braided green hair and a wide smile that seemed to brighten any room. She was an expert in medical ninjutsu, The Art of Healing with Chakra. Her hands glowed softly as she demonstrated, Naruko, your ability to warm the cold is like a natural healing jutsu. If you learn to control your chakra flow precisely, you can not only warm but also heal, helping wounds close and illnesses fade. Naruko listened carefully, fascinated. She had never thought of her gift as ninjutsu before, it was just her, something simple and natural. But here, she was learning it was a special kind of power, and that it could grow. Takumi and Midori became her companions and teachers, guiding her through daily exercises designed to strengthen her control over chakra. They introduced her to new terms: chakra flow, the invisible current of energy inside every shinobi; tenketsu, the points where chakra pulses strongest; and chakra molding, the skill of shaping energy into forms and effects. One of the first lessons was to learn chakura no nagare, chakra flow, by focusing on her breath and sensing the warmth spreading from her core to her fingertips. Naruko would close her eyes, breathe slowly, and imagine the ember inside her heart spreading light through her veins like gentle fire, melting any doubt or fear. Midori encouraged her to try healing simple injuries by channeling warmth and chakra simultaneously. At first, Naruko struggled, her fingers trembling as she tried to close tiny cuts on leaves without burning them. But with patience and Midori's calming presence, she succeeded. Slowly, the leaves' brown edges turned green again, as if kissed by spring. Meanwhile, Takumi taught her how to use her warmth not just physically but emotionally. When someone is sad or scared, their mind gets trapped in cold shadows, he explained. You can use your chakra like a light in a genjutsu, not to trick but to comfort. Create a warm illusion, a memory, a feeling, that helps them find peace. Naruko practiced this by sitting quietly with children who were homesick or scared of storms. She closed her eyes, imagined a glowing bubble of warmth surrounding them, and whispered stories of snowy fields turning to sunlit meadows. The children's fears softened, and smiles returned. As weeks passed, Naruko's confidence grew, but so did her questions. One evening, under a blanket of stars, Ayame spoke softly. Your power is rare because it is pure. Most shinobi learn to fight, to defend, to compete. You have learned to heal and to hope. That is a strength not all understand. Naruko nodded. But if I'm from Uzumaki bloodline, why was I born so far away? Why the land of snow? Ayame smiled, eyes reflecting starlight. Sometimes, destiny places us where we are needed most. The Uzumaki's life force is strong, capable of enduring hardship, healing wounds, and protecting bonds. Your birth here was no accident. The land of snow needed its warmth, its balance. And you are its living flame. Naruko's thoughts drifted to the ember tree, to the frozen forest that had accepted her. She realized her journey was not just about power but about belonging, about bringing harmony to places and hearts. One morning, Takumi invited Naruko to a special training in the village's secret garden, a place where nature and chakra intertwined. The garden was filled with strange plants that glowed faintly, and small streams that shimmered with chakra currents. Today, you'll try something new, he said, handing her a small crystal. This is a chakra conduit, Takumi explained. By focusing your chakra through it, you can amplify your warmth, spreading it farther, faster. But be careful, not to burn, but to nurture. Naruko took a deep breath and placed her palm on the crystal. She felt the ember inside flare brightly, then steady like a heartbeat. Slowly, warmth flowed through her arm, into the crystal, and spread around the garden. Flowers bent toward her, petals unfurling despite the chill. Tiny frost patterns melted into droplets of water. Midori joined, weaving her healing chakra with Naruko's warmth, and together they helped the garden bloom in the heart of winter. That night, Naruko sat with her friends around a small fire. She realized her journey was only beginning, her gifts would grow, and so would her understanding of what it meant to be both a daughter of snow and fire. The hidden leaf was no longer a distant story. It was a new home, a place where her flame could burn bright, gentle, and true. As the days in Hidden Leaf unfolded, Naruko's gentle nature became both her greatest strength and, at times, her biggest challenge. Word had spread quietly of the girl from the land of snow who healed with warmth and kindness, and many villagers admired her. But not everyone understood her ways. One afternoon, the Ninja Academy received urgent news. A rare illness had spread through a small neighboring village, Hanamura, not far from the Hidden Leaf. The villagers were weak, unable to eat or sleep well, and the local healers were struggling to find a cure. The illness wasn't caused by injury or poison, it was a deep fatigue that chilled the body and dulled the spirit. Naruko was invited to help. She traveled with Midori and Takumi, feeling the weight of hope on her shoulders. When they arrived, the village felt heavy with silence. Faces were pale, eyes sunken, and even the usual sounds of children playing were gone. The local healer, an elderly woman named Suki, greeted them with tired but kind eyes. "We have tried everything," Suki said softly. "Medicinal herbs, healing jutsu, even prayers. But this weariness won't lift. It's as if the village's heart has slowed." Naruko listened, sensing the deep sadness beneath the surface, the way the illness seemed less about the body and more about the spirit. She knelt beside a young girl named Emi, who lay curled beneath a blanket, shivering despite the mild weather. Naruko reached out, placing her hands gently over Emi's chest. She closed her eyes, feeling the icy chill in the girl's body and the flickering ember inside herself. She focused on sending warmth, not just heat, but calm, steady light. Her chakra flowed softly, weaving around Emi like a comforting embrace. At first, Emi's shiver slowed. But then, a crowd gathered, whispering doubts. "This illness is serious. We need strong medicine, strong jutsu," a man said sharply. He was a young ninja named Riku, known for his powerful taijutsu, physical combat skills, and confident, no-nonsense attitude. "Warmth won't fix this. We need something faster, stronger." Naruko looked up, feeling the tension in the air. She knew Riku meant well, he was a warrior, trained to act quickly to protect. But his words made her heart ache. Could her gentle healing truly be enough? Determined, Naruko smiled softly. "I understand your worry. Healing takes time, and sometimes patience feels hard when people suffer. But rushing with force can make the body and spirit worse." Riku frowned but didn't respond. Naruko spent the next days beside Emi and others, using her warmth to soothe, her chakra to mend. She taught the villagers breathing exercises to calm their minds, and stories to brighten their hearts. Slowly, little by little, the children's cheeks flushed with color again, the elders' eyes regained sparkle, and the heavy silence began to lift. One evening, Riku approached Naruko quietly. "I was wrong to doubt you," he admitted. "I thought healing had to be like fighting, with strength and speed. But watching you, your warmth doesn't just heal bodies. It heals hope." Naruko smiled, feeling a new kind of warmth, that of understanding and friendship. Healing is more than medicine or jutsu. It's about bringing light where there is darkness. Together, Naruko and Riku led a festival of healing, a simple gathering where villagers shared stories, laughter, and light. The night sky glowed with lanterns, and the village felt alive again. Naruko learned that day that her way was not just gentle, it was strong in its own quiet, powerful way. And sometimes, the biggest challenge was teaching others to see that strength. Back in Hidden Leaf, news of Naruko's healing journey to Hanamura spread quietly but surely through the village. People spoke of the girl from the land of snow who didn't just fight enemies but fought despair with warmth, kindness, and unwavering patience. Her reputation blossomed like the first cherry blossoms of spring, unexpected, beautiful, and full of promise. One morning, as Naruko trained alongside Takumi and Midori near the village's training grounds, a stranger arrived. He was a tall, lean young man with silver hair pulled into a high ponytail and sharp blue eyes that seemed to flicker with both mischief and wisdom. He wore the distinctive cloak of a sensor-type ninja, a specialist trained to detect chakra over vast distances and read subtle energies invisible to most. "I'm Renji," he said with a confident but friendly smile. "I've been sent to find someone who can balance power with peace, someone who sees healing not as weakness but as strength. I've heard that person is you." Naruko tilted her head curiously. "Sensor-type ninja? That sounds complicated." Renji laughed lightly. "It's like having a sixth sense. We read the world's energy, sense threats before they happen, and guide our teams safely through dangers. But it's not just about battle, it's about understanding. And that's why I'm here." Over the next weeks, Renji trained with Naruko and her friends, teaching her how to sense not just her own chakra but the flows around her, the fears, hopes, and hidden pains of others. "Your warmth can reach deeper when you know where to send it," he explained. "It's like lighting a candle in the darkest room. But you have to find the dark spots first." Naruko discovered new ways to use her gifts. Instead of only healing visible wounds or cold bodies, she learned to sense emotional coldness, invisible shadows in the hearts of those around her, and gently guide her chakra to thaw those hidden places. But Renji's presence also brought new challenges. Some elders whispered about the dangers of sensing too much, fearing it could overwhelm Naruko or blur her pure intentions. Others wondered if her path was too different from the shinobi way of strength and battle. One day, a powerful storm brewed over the village, cutting off communication and isolating parts of Hidden Leaf. A small group of villagers, including children, were trapped near the river where rising waters threatened their safety. The village was tense, traditional ninjas prepared for rescue with speed and force, but Naruko felt something different. Using Renji's sensor training, she closed her eyes and reached out with her chakra, feeling the panic and cold gripping the trapped villagers. Slowly, she wove a cocoon of warmth and calm around them, easing their fears as she guided a rescue team through the safest path, her chakra acting like a gentle beacon. The rescue succeeded without harm. And in the aftermath, the village began to see clearly that Naruko's strength was not the absence of battle skill but the presence of healing power balanced with understanding and courage. Naruko smiled, knowing her journey was still unfolding, each step teaching her how to blend fire and ice, warmth and stillness, strength and gentleness. The land of snow had given her roots. The hidden leaf was helping her grow wings. And somewhere inside, the ember still glowed, waiting to light the world. One crisp morning, as Naruko trained in the hidden leaf's training grounds, a strange shimmer rippled through the air nearby, like sunlight dancing on water. From this shimmer stepped two figures unlike any she had seen before, a boy with a kind, determined gaze and a black and green checkered haori, carrying a slender sword, and a girl with bright pink hair tied in a ribbon, her eyes full of warmth and fierce kindness. Naruko blinked in surprise. They introduced themselves quietly, Tanjiro Kamado and Nezuko Kamado, siblings from another world, where demons and demon slayers battled to protect humanity. "I'm Tanjiro," the boy said, bowing politely. "We've been traveling between worlds to help where we can. We heard of a healer whose warmth could calm even the coldest hearts." Nezuko nodded, her gentle smile radiating a quiet strength. Naruko's heart fluttered with excitement and curiosity. Though their worlds were different, she sensed a deep connection, a shared purpose to bring light and hope. Tanjiro explained how, in his world, battles were fierce, but healing and kindness were equally powerful weapons. "My sister and I know that strength comes not only from fighting but from protecting the bonds that keep us together." Naruko invited them to join her and Renji for a walk through the village's secret garden, a place where nature and chakra danced in harmony. As they walked, Nezuko gently touched a frost-covered flower, and Naruko, sensing the girl's quiet compassion, shared how she used her warmth to bring life back to frozen places. Tanjiro listened intently, then asked, "Could your healing help others who've been hurt by dark forces? People whose hearts feel frozen or broken?" Naruko nodded. "Yes. That's what I've been learning, to use my warmth not just on bodies but on spirits." Inspired, Tanjiro taught Naruko about breathing techniques, ways to focus energy and breath to calm the mind and strengthen the body, lessons he had learned from his own training as a demon slayer. "It's about balance," he said. "Breathing connects your body, mind, and spirit." Naruko practiced with him, feeling her chakra flow smoother and brighter, like a gentle river warmed by the sun. Together, they discovered how combining chakra control with breathing could deepen her healing. Renji showed how sensing subtle energies matched well with Tanjiro's sharp intuition, creating a new way to find and nurture hidden wounds. Their friendship blossomed quickly, as they shared stories of courage, hope, and healing from their different worlds. One day, the village faced a strange chill, an icy fog rolling in that no one could explain. Villagers shivered not just from cold but from unease, as if the fog carried a shadow in its breath. Naruko, Tanjiro, Nezuko, and Renji worked together. Using their combined skills, Naruko's warmth melted the icy fear, Tanjiro's breathing technique steadied anxious hearts, Nezuko's calming presence soothed the frightened children, and Renji's sensing abilities helped guide the villagers safely through the mist. By sunrise, the fog lifted, replaced by golden light. The villagers cheered, amazed at how different strengths, healing, sensing, breathing, and compassion, could come together to protect and heal. Naruko smiled at her new friends, feeling her journey deepen and expand beyond what she had imagined. She realized that no matter how different their worlds, the power of kindness and courage was universal. The land of snow, the hidden leaf, and even the world of demon slayers were connected by threads of warmth, threads she was only beginning to weave. Not long after the fog lifted, a new challenge came softly to the hidden leaf. A group of young animals, rabbits, fox kits, and tiny birds, had wandered into the village from the nearby forest, frightened and cold. They seemed lost and weak, their usual lively spirits dimmed by an unseen shadow spreading through the woods. Naruko's heart tightened. She knew this wasn't just a natural chill, it was a sickness of the forest spirit itself. Tanjiro, Nezuko, Naruko, and Renji gathered to plan. "This is different from what we've faced," Tanjiro said, his voice calm but serious. "It's not a demon, but the forest feels burdened, like it's caught between worlds." Naruko nodded. "Maybe my warmth can help, but I'll need to connect deeper with the forest spirit." Renji added, I can sense the energy around us, it's faint and trembling. If we combine our skills, we might bring back balance. Nezuko's soft smile encouraged them all. Let's work together. The team ventured into the heart of the forest, where frost clung to ancient trees and the air was still and heavy. Naruko closed her eyes, reaching out with her chakra, feeling the silent pulse of the earth beneath her feet. She breathed slowly, focusing her warmth into a soft glow that spread through her fingers. Tanjiro led the group using his sharp senses, guiding them toward the source of the imbalance, a small clearing where the forest's guardian spirit, a great white fox with shimmering fur, lay curled and weak. The creature's breath was shallow, its usual glow dimmed by the creeping cold. Naruko stepped forward carefully, placing her hands gently on the guardian's fur. She let her warmth flow like a healing river, not rushing but steady and sure. Tanjiro and Nezuko stood close, supporting her with calm breathing and silent encouragement, while Renji focused on sensing the energy shifts, helping Naruko know where the warmth was needed most. Minutes passed like gentle waves until, slowly, the great fox's breathing deepened, and its glowing fur began to shimmer faintly again. The animals around the clearing perked up, their eyes brightening. The forest seemed to breathe with relief. Naruko smiled softly, her heart full. Sometimes, healing is about being patient enough to listen, to the earth, the spirit, and to each other. Tanjiro nodded. And about trusting the strengths we all bring, even when they're different. Nezuko gently touched the fox's head, a soft warmth radiating from her, a silent promise of protection. As they walked back to the village, the sun breaking through the trees like golden ribbons, Naruko realized how far her journey had come. From the cold snows of her homeland to the warm bonds of new friends and worlds, she was learning that healing and hope were the greatest powers of all. And with friends like these, no challenge was too great, no darkness too deep, to bring light. Returning to the land of snow after her time in the Hidden Leaf and with her new friends from another world, Naruko felt a renewed sense of purpose and confidence. The frozen landscape of her childhood no longer seemed as cold and distant. Instead, it felt like a place waiting patiently for her warmth to return. Her village had changed too, in small ways. The elders greeted her with quiet hope, children eagerly gathered around, curious about her travels. But the land of snow still faced its ancient challenges, the long winters that seemed unending, the frozen rivers that slowed the village's life, and sometimes the chill of loneliness that settled in the hearts of its people. Naruko knew that healing this place required more than just warmth. It needed the lessons of balance, patience, and friendship she had learned from her journeys. She began by teaching the village children the breathing techniques Tanjiro had shared, helping them connect with their own energy and calm their minds during the cold, lonely nights. Together, they practiced gentle movements that flowed like water and breaths that rose and fell like the soft wind. Next, she used Renji's sensing methods to understand where the village's energy was weakest, places where cold shadows clung too tightly or where worries weighed heavily on hearts. With her chakra, she created small, glowing orbs of warmth that floated through the village like fireflies, bringing light and comfort to those corners. One evening, as snowflakes danced softly around her, Naruko gathered the villagers near the great ember tree, now taller and stronger than ever, its branches shimmering with a new magic. She shared stories of her friends, Tanjiro, Nezuko, Renji, and the lessons they taught her about courage, kindness, and the power of gentle strength. The villagers listened, their faces glowing with hope. They began to understand that warmth wasn't just heat, it was connection, patience, and light shared even in the darkest times. Naruko's gift became the heart of the village, a bridge between fire and ice, snow and sun. And every night, as the stars sparkled above the land of snow, the village glowed softly, not just from the ember tree, but from the warmth in their hearts, carried by a girl who had traveled far to bring it home. Naruko stood beneath the glowing branches of the ember tree, the soft snow swirling like tiny stars around her. She looked out at the faces of her village, young and old, friends and family, all touched by the warmth she had carried across lands and worlds. Her journey had started in a place of cold and silence, but it had blossomed into something far greater, a light that could melt even the deepest frost, not with force or fire, but with kindness, patience, and hope. She had learned that true strength wasn't measured by how loudly one could fight or how quickly one could act, but by how gently one could heal, by how deeply one could listen, and by how brightly one could shine, even when surrounded by darkness. No matter where you come from, no matter the hardships you face, Naruko's story reminds us all that inside each of us is a warmth, a light waiting to be shared. And sometimes, the greatest power we have is the simple courage to care. With that light in her heart, Naruko smiled, ready to face whatever came next, knowing that kindness could change the world, one gentle step at a time. Dear YouTube family, that's all for now. Stay tuned for more exciting content coming your way. Warm regards. 6 Path Weeb.